So my name is James Crabtree. I'm an author, a writer, a geopolitical analyst. I've spent most of the last 2 decades living in Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, Northeast Asia. I wrote a book about India called The Billionaire Raj, which was about the rise of the Indian super rich in the age of globalization. I'm just about to write another book, which is about the US-China conflict. So I look at issues at the intersection of international security, geopolitical change, and technological disruption. So my new book, The Perimeter, starts in 1950 with Dean Acheson when he was the US Secretary of State. He gave a speech on January the 12th of that year, which is called the Perimeter Speech, which announced that the US had a forward defensive perimeter in Asia and a line of islands stretching down China's coastline from Alaska through Japan, through Taiwan and the Philippines. And this, which we now call the first island chain, is the most important geostrategic dividing line in the world. It's also one that most people have never heard of. And so the book looks at this dividing line from the administration of President Truman to the administration of President Trump and explains what the United States is going to do in the future as it seeks to hold this line in the face of China's attempt to push it out of the region. So the central insight of the book is that the US faces an extremely difficult choice, one that's common to many major powers throughout history, which, to put it very simply, is does it go big or does it go home? Does it gear up for a generational second Cold War with China with all of the costs and risks of war that entails? Or does it seek to gently retreat and make space for China as a co-equal partner in the Indo-Pacific? It's not a choice that the American people are yet ready to make, but it is the choice that confronts them, and it's a hell of a difficult choice. So most of us grew up in an era in which geopolitical rules were becoming easier for business. It was an age of globalization. Now we're still in a global era, but one in which those global links are being weaponized. And so the big challenge that faces business leaders, corporate leaders, financial institutions is working out their vulnerabilities to the weaponized interconnections that we've built. That could be rare earth minerals, it could be capital flows, it could be foreign direct investment, but trying to work out where geopolitical pressure is going to come and how you respond to that before it happens. So the European and Asian theaters in security terms are becoming ever more closely intertwined. You have China's rising influence in Europe, you have North Korean soldiers fighting in Ukraine, but you also have countries in Asia looking to Europe both as a partner that is rearming, but also looking to the war in Ukraine and seeing, well, what can we learn from the most important military conflict of the 21st century. So both in trade terms and in military terms, the fate of the Indo-Pacific region and the Euro-Atlantic region are ever more closely intertwined. So I'm not sure if it's underappreciated, but it's certainly the biggest risk, and that's Taiwan. I just came back as we speak this week from a trip last week to meet political leaders and decision makers in Taiwan. I think the problem that most people out there in the business world is that they think of Taiwan as, well, is China going to invade or not? In actual fact, there are many different escalation steps that could happen between where we are now and a military invasion, a quarantine, a blockade, gray zone activity, disruptions to shipping. There are many different kinds of crises that you could face. And I think having a more granular understanding of the role that Taiwan is likely to play in the future of global security is something that any business that has anything to do with Asia needs to have as a matter of urgency. So the world of technology that we're moving into is fundamentally different from the last Cold War. Then all of the major technological development was done by governments, by NASA, by DARPA in the United States. Now it's being done by the private sector. The major developers of AI are American big tech companies and Chinese big tech companies and a couple of others. And therefore, understanding this relationship between governments and technological innovators is critical. I don't think anybody is really winning this race. For a while, artificial intelligence, it appeared that the frontier technology was mostly American, but I was in Beijing recently and the DeepSeek moment has really reinvigorated China's confidence in its own technological ability to innovate. And so I think it's likely that we're going to see a back and forth race between China, the United States, and to some degree Europe and India over leadership in these different technological areas, not just AI, but technologies related to the green transition too, like batteries or hydrogen power, for instance. So, I mean, I think is clearly going to be India. The world is going to be shaped for the next century by three countries, the United States, China, and India. And India is the one that has the most capacity for growth. 2035 might be a smidgen early. That's less than a decade from now. But if you look out to mid-century, this is a world that is going to be more Indian, more shaped by Indian preferences, and in which India has a far greater say in global affairs. And as someone who lived and worked in India for a long time and continues to go back, then I think that's both an exciting prospect, but one that will come with as many challenges for businesses in the West as has been true with China over the last 10 or 20 years.